All right, let's start with some music. When I awake, I see thy face. When I awake, I see thy light. When I awake, I see thy face. When I awake, I see thy light. Mother, awake me from my dreams. Mother, awake me in thy light. Hand in hand we're dancing together, dancing together in thy light. When I awake, I lend all fear. When I wake, I know thy love. When I awake, I lend all fear. When I awake, I know thy love. Mother, awake me from my dreams. Mother, awake me in thy light. Hand in hand we're dancing together, dancing together in thy light. When I awake, I lend all sorrow. When I awake, I will know thy joy. When I awake, I lend all sorrow. When I awake, I will know thy joy. Mother, awake me from my dreams. Mother, awake me in thy light. Hand in hand we're dancing together, dancing together in thy light. Let's offer a prayer. O Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of self-realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Paramhansa Yogananda, and saints of all religions, we humbly bow before you and invite your divine energy and inspiration into our hearts and minds. Bless us with intuitive understanding, with true knowledge and attunement to your divine presence. Help us to use our intuition in small things in our daily life, and help us to become ever more deeply an instrument of your divine will in all that we do, all that we say, all that we are. Om. Peace. Amen. Let's meditate briefly to tune into the subject, knowledge, energy, and inspiration. So let's especially tune into our heart center and offer the calm feeling of the heart inward and upward to the spiritual eye. And let's continue to meditate, and I'll read to you a whisper from eternity. This is demand for opening of the spiritual temple doors everywhere. O Father, when I was blind, I found not a door which led to thee. But now that thou hast opened my eyes, I find doors everywhere, through the hearts of flowers, through the voice of friendship, through sweet memories of all lovely experiences. Every gust of my prayer opens an unentered door in the vast temple of thy presence. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome, Nicole, and welcome, Stephanie. It's fun to be here with you and get to share on. This is lesson 3 tonight. I think you guys are aware of that: knowledge, inspiration, and energy. And I wanted to start with this whisper from eternity, that one in particular, because there's actually a story behind that. And maybe you've heard this story, that there was a man, a journalist, was interviewing Yogananda. And he asked him, well, sir, can inspiration be under the power of our will? And Yogananda responded, yes, take down this poem. And that was the poem that he recited, this opening, the demand for opening spiritual temple doors everywhere. I imagine you probably have whispers, or if you don't, of course, it's free online. It's number 10 in Whispers from Eternity, prayer demand number 10. But I think that is such a perfect example for this chapter on knowledge, inspiration, and energy, because the point that Swami Kriyananda is elucidating is that true greatness comes from our own intuitive center. Do you remember an autobiography of a yogi how Yogananda described his experience in cosmic consciousness? He said, I cognize the center of the Imperium as a point of intuitive perception in my own heart. So it's within us that we have, of course, this intuitive knowledge, but in order to find it, that's why we have to learn to use it. And we have to meditate, and we have to have an inner life and experiment and try that inner life out in daily life. Swami talked about in this lesson a number of his songs. One in particular was Cloisters. You may have heard that song, maybe not. Long I've called you, my Lord, long I've called you. That one. And the end of the song is very beautiful. Bathe the darkness with tears of devotion. How much longer, friend, must I cry your name? I am yours, ever yours. Will you come? That was really, and Swami had talked about his writing of this song. The conventional way of writing it would be, will you come? And it would go back to the tonic note. And he actually told a story about how this organist at his mother's, memorial service, when Swami's mother passed, she was refusing to play one of his pieces of music because it didn't return to the tonic note. And finally she relented and played it. But the point, the reason I wanted to bring up Cloisters, and Swami does talk about it in this lesson too, is that that's a beautiful example as well of breaking out of convention, one thing, and secondly, where does that note go? It goes up. It's like in devotional upward aspiration. It's going out into infinity. And I think that's, at least for me, that's one of the reasons that song is so eternally inspiring. Every time I hear it, it does inspire a feeling of love for God, of devotion to something higher. And so this is one of the keys that Swami is helping us to understand. True to have knowledge, energy, and inspiration. Those are the keys to our success in life. And there's story after story of someone in a field who didn't have the conventional knowledge but had the energy and inspiration. The other man that Swami mentioned, the Indian man Ramanujan, the Indian mathematician. There was that movie that was made about him in the book. I forget the name of it, The Man of Infinity or something like that. In any case, he intuitively, he would have these insights about math and these complex problems, and he could figure them out. And the conventional mathematicians at Oxford and England, where he went, couldn't believe it, and many were, of course, threatened by this unconventional approach to math. But for us, it's that, how can we find what inspires us? I think that's an important question to ask. In what line of work, where do you feel inspiration within your work? And where can you bring your own energy and dedication? Because we've talked about this before, and I think Swami mentions it in the introduction, that we've entered a new age of energy, right? We know, I think you both are familiar with the Yuga cycles, and we've entered Dwapara Yuga ascending. And we feel, I'm sure we all feel, that it seems like it's crazy in our society, right? That things are breaking down. This is like Kali Yuga's last gasp. And that's why you kind of have like dinosaurs that are on like steroids. These old world, my country, my way, my board, this, that, not to get into the politics of things, but we're seeing it. We're seeing Kali Yuga trying to hang on. But those paradigms, Kali Yuga is, Swami put this somewhere, I think in Religion in the New Age, it can be epitomized by either or consciousness, right? It's either this or that. And Dwapara Yuga is a more fluid, intuitive understanding of life that is like both end, right? The West is kind of, we're steeped in this intellectual Aristotelian logic. And there's a place for that. And it's helpful in the material world to have clarity around things in that manner. But when we're talking about the intuitive understanding of life, it's much more complex and nuanced. When Swami was a young monk and he was with Yogananda out in the desert, and Master Yogananda asked him to edit, I think it was the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. And Yogananda would say, well, this passage means such and such. And then he would go on to say, and it also means this. And Swami was like, wait a minute, can he make up his mind? He's saying it means, this is the interpretation. Then he's saying it also means that. And at first, it was, Swami had a hard time understanding that it's a deeper way, an intuitive understanding of life. There's a story from ancient India. I think it was Chaitanya. I don't know exactly, but there was this one very proud pundit who came up with 20 interpretations of this certain scriptural passage. And Chaitanya, who is a bhakti yogi, went by devotion, and he said, well, let me see if I can unearth any other interpretations. And he came up with 70 or 80 more or something like that. But this is steeped in the East and in India in particular, this intuitive understanding of life. But the key for us, coming back to knowledge, inspiration, and energy, it's just that. We need energy, but we don't want this like the new energy that's flooding the planet now with Dwapara Yuga. We don't want it to be like we're, an adolescent with his parents out of town for the first time. You know what I mean? And we want to use the energy in a conscious way. And a real simple example of that is with meditation, right? What I mean, Nicole, as a yoga teacher, and Stephanie, we all know this as yogis. How are we taught? What's the posture for meditation? It's to sit upright. And Swami used to say, I'm sure you've seen maybe an advertisement, but this was many years ago. Swami saw some advertisement about this new meditation, and the person was in a lounge chair, leaning back with his legs up. Swami said that's the absolute worst posture for meditation, right? Because what do you practice when you lay down? It's a passive posture. We go to sleep. We know that from our experience. That's why in meditation, we're taught to sit upright, but with a relaxed spine so that we can be still. And it just occurred to me, we talk about this again and again, and this is why we need to talk about it again and again, because we get deeper insights. But it just occurred to me as I was reading the chapter today, it's like, oh, well, we talk about upward relaxation, right? Well, if in order to relax upward, that straight spine, that upright posture, helps you do that. And so I think this is very important, especially because, again, in the West, we are steeped in, wow, if you're super smart, quote unquote, intellectually, that means, you've got all the answers. Well, the intellect is just one part of our nature. It's just one aspect, I should say, of our nature. In Education for Life, the school system that Swami founded based on Yogananda's teachings, they talk about the tools of maturity, right? That the first 6 years we're learning as babies and toddlers to use our bodies. Then from 6 to 12, we're learning our feeling nature. And so storytelling and things that you remember that Yogananda would say his mother was a queen of hearts, and she would use stories from the Ramayana and Indian epics to help the children understand a moral principle. And then from 12 to 18 is the will years. And this is why in Education for Life schools, they take the kids out, right, on service projects to engage, to direct their willpower in a constructive manner. And then 18 to 24 is the development of intelligence, and all of those combined, though, those tools of maturity, the body, the feelings, the will, the intelligence, those are combined, are how we can draw a deeper understanding of life. So the importance, coming back to what I was talking about with upright posture, the importance of high energy, right? Any person of success is a person of high energy and concentration. And this is why one of Yogananda's foundational techniques are the energization exercises. But we can take the principle that he gives, the greater the will, remember, the greater the flow of energy. This is vitally, it's like we want to emblazon that. What does that mean for our experience in life? Well, it's not just a gritting our teeth willpower and blasting through willpower. It is an openness to that divine flow, right? And Yogananda said that one of the keys to spiritual growth is spontaneous willingness. And this is why it's important to go to sleep at night after having meditation and having divine contact, to try and hold that consciousness, bring it into your sleep. Take an affirmation or a mantra into your sleep so that you are taking it into your subconscious. And upon waking up, before you get drawn into the day's activities, and I need to brush my teeth and whatever the things you need to do, to your first thought to be of God. Your first thought you could do those super conscious living exercises. Do you know those? I am awake and ready. I am positive, energetic, enthusiastic. To train, and more than train, to reprogram our subconscious mind. And our subconscious is open when we're waking up, because we're moving from subconscious into conscious. And when we go to sleep, we're going from conscious into subconscious. So we can use those times to our advantage. And this is why, there was a story of Swami Kriyananda when he was a young monk with Yogananda, and he was saying, I'm trying so hard, sir, and I just don't feel like I'm making progress in my meditation. And you know what Yogananda said to him? He said, you're trying too hard. Just be natural. And that's why, I encourage people to, I'm paraphrasing Master, I need to find the exact passage, but he said to emphasize relaxation in the beginning. And I feel like a beginner. I'm sure we all feel like beginners in a good sense, but there's a lot of tension, I think, that we all can carry. And part of that comes from thinking that we have got to intellectually find out all the answers, right? We know that, Swami was talking about this. We now have AI, of course, and people think, well, I can be more productive and more, intelligent with AI. Well, with all thy getting, get understanding, is the saying from the Bible. It doesn't matter if we have a machine that can churn out answers super quick. We need to have the divine intelligence, right? That's what Swami is saying here. And the bridge, again, coming back to this age of energy, the bridge between the material world and the spiritual world is energy. And it depends on how we are directing our energy. So what are and I'm going to pause here because I know I've been yapping. And but what are the blocks to our energy? Right? One of them Swami touches on is we think we're being original by coming up with something different, right? And he points this out, that no, actually to be original is to come from your own origin, right? Every snowflake is unique. That means Nicole, Stephanie, every soul has a unique soul song to sing. That is incredible. But yet there's imitation art, right? It can be shocking. I used to work in New York City, and a friend took me to an art gallery one time. I don't know what the art show was, but you know what I remember is it was this one exhibit, and it was big museum, and it was a big ripped out piece of the highway, like the asphalt, the rebar going all the way down, like 8 feet. And they had like a 30-foot chunk of the highway put in the museum. And I thought, man, I just got gypped out of however much I paid for this exhibit. I could be driving, on the Jersey Turnpike and see this. This is not art, right? Art should uplift our consciousness, right? The arts are a reflection, right? Music in India is a divine art. Dancing, those movements with the hands and the different mudras, they help bring the energy up. I don't know if you've been, but if you've been to I've been to a few sitar concerts, and wow, I was so deeply inspired. The vibrations, the tablas. Master said that drums done properly. There was a time when they were chanting, and Yogananda was chanting with Dr. Lewis, and Dr. Lewis was I don't know, embarrassed or what it was with the drumming, and Master said, "No, doctor, the drumming done rightly, it helps loosen the karma in the spine." And I remember that. And then I was at this sitar concert, and I experienced this tabla player, and I felt that experience. It helped, awaken something within you. And you realize, wow, it was what was flowing through him, right? That's the beautiful thing. The Indian musician is known as the Bhagavatar, that one that sings of Bhagavan, of the Lord, right? The Gita is the Bhagavad Gita, the song of spirit. And so if everything that we do, especially the arts, should reflect that and remind us and uplift us. And so it can be for our work and whatever line of work we find ourselves, however we find ourselves serving, right? It's always a question of our attitude and where we're at. So one of the things that, coming back, that blocks our flow of upward energy is this feeling like I have got to do something different. No, you actually really, you have to be true to yourself. Swami's that other song, Dare to be different, dare to be different, dare to be free, dare to roam far like wind on the sea. Fly like the gulls, soar high in the air. Be strong in your courage when others despair. It's a beautiful song. And it's talking about this topic. To have success is to use our knowledge and our inspiration and our energy rightly. And that means actually relaxing more, but relaxing in this upward fashion. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that we're not using, we're flying in the face of rules. Like Swami said, he didn't take musical composition courses, but he then found that there are certain rules, and his melodies would naturally kind of follow them. But like that's ending of cloisters that I mentioned, he would break convention because he was trying to tune in and express a principle, a spiritual principle, in that song, right? The deep longing and yearning for God. So coming to the chapter, on the bottom of page 39, what made them hard workers was their strong energy. What inspired them inwardly was that very energy. And then he goes on to say on page 41, to understand your own motivation is to understand the motivation of others. It is within that one must look for insights that are forever new and at the same time forever true. Outstanding success comes from working with our own understanding and not by repeating the thoughts and actions of others. It comes, moreover, from sensing our link with others' needs, desires, and aspirations. So having this, this deeper understanding of our true nature and how we can be like a strong swimmer and use that intuitive strength to help reach others. And Swami was brilliant at this. I mean, this whole course, of course, is a perfect example of trying to take deep inspiration but make it practical. And I think that is why, well, I mean, we know this is why Master Yogananda was drawn to the West, and in particular, America. Nayaswami Devi was just mentioning this in Inner Renewal. It may have been the Kriyaban retreat sometime this past week, that Master was drawn to America in particular because Babaji had felt the prayers from the West and that people wanted a practice. They wanted a technique to raise their consciousness. And this is where the lineage of Kriya Yoga masters felt, right? What did Babaji say to Sri Yukteswar at that Kumbh Mela? I see that your heart is broad enough. Sri Yukteswar had that critical thought, oh, gee, the men of the West surely must be more pleasing to these hypocritical sadhus and all this noisy craze. But what did Babaji pick out of that? Not his criticism. He did correct him. And he said, don't, fault take the many and criticize the few. Be like the wise ant. This is that Babaji quote you might remember. Be like the wise ant and take the sugar and leave the sand. So he helped redirect Sri Yukteswar's judgment of the Kumbh Mela. And then what did he do? He said, I see your heart is broad enough to include our Occidental, our Western brothers, along with our Oriental brothers. Won't you write a book that shows the parallels between the Bible and our Eastern teachings? And remember how Sri Yukteswar responded, my Lord, how could I write such a book? And he said, Babaji said, my child, why do you doubt? He that asks me to ask you, he is the doer of all this. And that's a good reminder for us. When we think, oh my God, this is one of the blocks to our energy. Who am I, right? I can't do that. It's this false humility, right? It's really we come up with like elaborate excuses not to do it. And I'm reading a beautiful book about Saint Faustina. I don't know if you've heard of her. She was a Polish saint back in the 1930s who had the visions of Christ and Divine Mother. Very incredible saint. And Christ said to her, I think I may have mentioned this, but it's worth repeating, that what kept her separate at times was her exaggerated sense of anxiety. That was one of the things. And that's what we do. We create this this weight. And if we are doing it on our own, it is a weight, of course. It's not truly inspiration. If we're tuning into the divine presence, what did Yogananda say in that whisper? Every gust of my prayer opens an unentered door in the vast temple of thy presence. God's presence is everywhere. 1,000 Vedas do declare the divine mothers everywhere. But the question is, how would we act if that is true? It can transform our understanding and the way that we behave. When Swami would lecture, he said he would see his guru and each person and lecture to his guru. And some people said, "Who are you to lecture to your guru?" And Swami said, "No, that's not how he meant it. He meant that divine presence, center everywhere, circumference nowhere. That divine presence is everywhere." I read I received this spiritual name Narayan years ago, but the reason I'm bringing it up is I was raised Roman Catholic, and I always, not that I was trying to reconcile a spiritual name with my Catholic upbringing, but I stumbled upon a Sanskrit. And I asked, let me back up. I asked Swami what the name meant. And Swami very sweetly just said, it's a name for Krishna. Narayan is a name for Krishna. And that's all they said. I remember I was bringing books over to the Hermitage. I may have told this story, I'm sure I did before. But my point is, I remember when he said that I felt like, oh wow, couldn't it have meant like, he's a nice guy, or like I'm from the East Coast, that guy makes a good pizza pie. It's like there was part of me that there's part of us that doesn't want to accept that, but that is who you are, Nicole. That is who you are, Stephanie. That's who each and every one of us is, Narayan, right? It's a name for Krishna, where Krishna is a title. Remember, it was Yadava the Krishna, Jesus the Christ. Christ wasn't his last name. So that divine presence, that divine heritage is who we are. So anyway, coming back, I stumbled upon this Sanskrit interpretation of Narayana, right? There's Narayan and Narayana. And the Sanskrit scholar in this book that was interpreting Narayana, he said, Na is existence, Nara is consciousness, Naraya is thought, and Narayana is action. So existence, and it forms a cross, he said, existence, consciousness, thought, action. And for me, it was a beautiful experience, because I felt like, oh my God, like it brings circle my sort of Christian Catholic upbringing. And when you make a cross, but think of that, how beautiful, the cross is it's not a Christian, it's a universal symbol. Ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. You know how we talk about Satchidanandam? I realized in a way that's the cross, because it's ever existing, ever conscious. This is like our vertical line, right? What we talked about with meditating, connecting with the divine, communing with God inwardly. But that's not enough, because the nature of bliss is to enjoy himself through many. The very nature of bliss is to share. So this course is really about how do we bring that vertical line into the horizontal, into our thoughts and into our action. You see what I mean, where I'm going with that? And anyway, all that to say, it's been an inspiring revelation that is who we are. Right? From joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt. And people will say, well, how can you be joyful, when this suffering in the world's going on? Well, that kind of, if we get drawn into the despair in the world, that's not helping the world. That's what Master said. And in fact, Sagar mentioned this. It was really very inspiring. I'd encourage you to read it. Again, it's in Whispers from Eternity. It's at the beginning, forgive me. It's called Watching the Cosmic Motion Picture of Life. It's before the demands. It's at the beginning, after the hints to reader. Watching the Cosmic Motion Picture of Life. And Master says, excuse me, sympathetic higher beings entertain themselves with the joy of helping mortals. If they cried and became identified with the tears of others, they could not render help, for sorrow increases sorrow, which can only be diminished and healed through contact with the potent salve of unshakably happy minds. Isn't that powerful? This is in the beginning of Whisper. So Sagar was sharing this as part of his talk. I think it was Inner Renewal Week. And that's the point, is we're trying to become those unshakably happy minds. I read Master somewhere, I think it was in Man's Eternal Quest, one of those, the Journey to Self-Realization, the Divine Romance, Man's Eternal Quest. And he said, do you know what the qualification, I forget the exact word, he said sort of the litmus or the qualification of self-realization, or the proof, excuse me, I think that was the word he used. What's the proof of self-realization? I thought, oh, well, this is, what's he going to say? This is interesting. And he said, to be truly and unconditionally happy. Yeah. What did St. Francis de Sales say? A sad saint is a sad saint indeed. Meaning the purpose of life is, from joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt. This is the puzzle, right, of duality that's placed before us. And if we get caught in that dualistic turmoil, then we're going to get drawn down. Remember how Master describes it in Samadhi? A melancholic whirlpool, right? It will draw you down. So we are using what? Kundalini power in the subtle form. We're trying to wake up ourselves, and through our own but God-given power, use that love and joy and bliss and blessings to help and share and wake our brothers. I wanted to share, and this, I promise I'm going to stop after this. This is Songs of the Soul, Master's other book of prayer poems. And this one, wow, this was very inspiring to me. Wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. I'm going to read this poem for you. It's about a minute or so. So if you feel, you could take it as your soul call here. When tables large of earth and moon and meteors, of brooks and rills of shining ether ore, are laid with wondrous one nectar, stolen from nature's nooks by Lars, do thou thy sullen sleep forsake. Wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. Through diverse paths of eons thou hast cried, for a morsel of manna begged and tried. But now thou sleepest dazed and tired on lyre. Undried lie drops of fresh wept tears, while nectar touches thy lips. Partake, wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. This unquenched hunger old of mine did eat all food and yet did pine, was starved with surfeit and it sought, how might its yearn for food be got? The food for which thou wepst awaits. Partake, wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. Friends and wealth and fancy's rarest treat, posthumous wishes sprung from deathless roots so sweet, did fail to feed thy heart's true crave, and burned with thousand flaming waves. The nectar sought forseeks thee now. Partake, wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. My hunger burned and wept to drink the mysteries by life's bare brink, ambrosial font that sleep beneath the mystery caves on soil of truth. Weep more drops, nay, streams, oceans of tears. Thy duty is for peace to weep, thy only care. To seek thy work and all thy food be what doth nourish thy mood. Thy work is done, thy nectar's here. Quench, quench the eternal ache. Wake, wake, my sleeping hunger, wake. I found this so beautiful. I had never read that poem until we came out with Songs of the Soul. That's why, that's the inspiration. Swami he's giving us a psychophysiological blow. That's actually how one of the ways Master described Kriya Yoga. Psychophysiological blow, right? It's not enough for us in this age of energy, as beautiful as these poems are, as beautiful as the lessons are. We have the eternal ache, as Master was saying, and that is we want to wake up in God. But to do that, we need help, right? We're like asleep. We're hypnotized. We have amnesia. So we need the, energization, tense with will, relax and feel, that you are having to send the energy through the agency of willpower. And this is what Swami is saying in the lesson, to direct our willpower with concentration and energy, right? To put ourselves wholeheartedly into what we do. Because we're so often, we're bifurcated, we're divided. We're not using our full energy. I'm going to tell you one last story, and then we're going to open it up. I keep saying that, I know. But this is a fun Italian story from my upbringing. My grandfather was like tough as nails, like old school, couldn't read or write. There's like urban legends surrounded my grandfather. Like my dad would be driving through Philadelphia. You see that building? He was a plumber. Your grandfather walked in there and told them how much pipe they needed within a foot, and he couldn't read or write. It was just like my dad's way of being proud of my grandfather. And he was a great soul. So this story goes, I was about 10 or so, and we were always doing a project, right? So we were doing demo at our home. We were knocking down a wall, and my job, because I was the young kid that didn't know anything, I was to take nails out of the wall with a hammer. I'm sure you've done that, or you've seen someone do it, take a nail out of the wall. So I was taking nails out of the wall, and I had nails in one hand and my hammer in another. And I got to this one nail, and I couldn't for the life of me get it out of the wall. And so I sheepishly told my grandfather, who was on the other side of the room, and he was kind of crouched down, and I said, Grandpa, I can't get this nail out of the wall. And he turned to me and he said, oh yeah? And he had this like tone in his voice that you knew when he said that you were in trouble, right? And he came over with his hammer to the nail, and he said, that's because you're not using both your hands. And he ripped it out of the wall. And I swear to God, I could see this nail like flying in the air out of the wall, and it like landed on the ground. And I was like awestruck, and I was speechless. But I tell you, I never forgot the lesson. Use both your hands. And to this day, I'll be multitasking, brushing my teeth and doing something, getting a pill or something. Like, no, Grandpa, use both your hands. But this is what yoga teaches us, right? Concentrate your mind. And this is the gift that Master has given us. Use both. Give life your heart. What does Swami say in that song? Give your whole self into it. And the more we do that, right, the more we receive back from life. It's when we're thinking the other way, right? What are we going to get out of it? We're not fully committed. Anyway, we only have about 10 minutes left. Please, Nicole, Stephanie, share with me. I have been talking too much.
You've not been talking too much.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I've been enjoying
Nicole,
the stories.
I can't hear you. I don't know if it's your...
Might be my headset.
It might be your headphones.
Yeah, let me just try taking
Stephanie,
them off.
can you hear? Okay, maybe it's my headphones. Hold on, I'm going to take myself. It's got to be my headphones. Let me undo my headphones. Okay, there you are. Sorry, it was my...
That's all right. No, I was just saying I enjoyed your stories and your commentary, so I wasn't, wasn't too much.
Not too much at all. It's been great.
Yeah, very helpful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lesson. I thought it would be nice if we could close with Swami's meditation, which I'll play for us. Would you guys give me just a moment and I'll pull that up?
Go for it. Try this again.
Okay. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen, and then we will have the meditation by Swami. And please just give me a thumbs up that you can hear it.
Meditation. Visualize a vast web, similar to a spider's web, but without the lethal connotations. See yourself on this web as a single, glistening dewdrop. The drop that is yourself is not directly connected to any other drop, though every dewdrop on the web is connected to every other by subtle filaments that suggest the universality of infinite consciousness. Feel your kinship with all life and all knowledge. Nothing in the universe is alien to you. All truth is yours. All things belong to your own eternal reality.
And then let's close with the affirmation for lesson 3. I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. A little softer. I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. Now in a whisper, I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. Now mentally, I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. Now silently, I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. Now at the spiritual eye, superconsciously broadcasting, I am one with everything in existence. Truth itself is mine, and I am a part of all truth. Om. Peace.